Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Akatsuki Iceberg video. So this is gonna be one of the more ambitious videos on my channel. The Akatsuki, as we know, is probably the most beloved villain squad in anime. I've talked about them like pretty much all the fucking time, and I know that you guys are always ready to learn more about them. So I figured that this may be the perfect video to make. This is gonna be kinda like my thesis, if you will. Now, an iceberg video is a video where you go over as much material as you can regarding a certain subject, like the captions on this image. And as you dive deeper into the iceberg, the information gets relatively more obscure. What this iceberg will contain are both knowledge and trivia, as well as unanswered mysteries and theories about the Akatsuki, pertaining to both the group and individual members. Source material that I'll use is the manga, the anime, the databooks, as well as the Akatsuki Hidden novel, even though some consider it to be glorified filler, since the novel contains additional information about the group that is relatively obscure. Now this is gonna be a long one, so make sure to grab some popcorn and a drink, and let's unravel all we can regarding the Akatsuki. Let's start with the surface level. This is more general information that the average fan should know. First captions the Akatsuki's range of jutsu. Now, as the leading group of bad guys, it's not surprising that the combined strength of the Akatsuki would have a very impressive range of ninjutsu to use. For example, Itachi has the strongest fire jutsu, the Amaterasu, at his disposal, while Kisame is the best water style user and can summon an entire lake by regurgitating water from his mouth. Kakuzu can use all 5 elements, but he's most proficient at earth style. Konan can use wind, water, and earth styles. Deidara has the explosive style Kekkei Genkai that combines earth and lightning. Sasori has the magnet style Kekkei Genkai since he possesses the 3rd Kazekage's puppet. And both Tobi and Zetsu can use the wood style Kekkei Genkai. Nagato, like Kakuzu, was able to master every nature type. The only one that isn't proficient in elemental jutsu is Hidan, who just relies on his cursed ritual. Most of the Akatsuki members possess some sort of pseudo-immortality. Hidan has an immortal body and cannot be killed except from arguably malnourishment. Kakuzu is also semi-immortal. He has 4 separate hearts and each one needs to be killed for him to die. Sasori's puppet body also gives him some immortal qualities. Like, since he's a puppet, he can't age, so he can't die of old age. And on top of that, he doesn't need to eat or drink. So unlike Hidan, he cannot die from malnourishment. But also unlike Hidan, he can die from being stabbed in the heart, or his puppet core. Pain is also immortal in a sense, or at least the paths are, since they're technically already dead, and the Naraka path can revive any overtly damaged path and bring it back brand new with a fresh cloak and all. Zetsu also doesn't seem mortal to the passage of time, and his blob-like figure makes it difficult to kill, though not impossible since it implies that Minato and Kakashi could. And finally, Obito and Itachi, theoretically as well, could be immortal for an instance while using the Izanagi. Also, Orochimaru was an Akatsuki member and he's pretty much immortal. Here's another interesting piece of trivia. If we look at all the Kazekage whose deaths was actually known to us, they have all been taken out by Akatsuki members. Sasori defeated the 3rd Kazekage in battle and turned him into a human puppet. And what's funny is, the 4th and the 5th were killed by Sasori's Akatsuki partners. The 4th was killed by Orochimaru, who then went on to impersonate him in the Chunin exams. And the 5th was killed by Deidara when the Akatsuki extracted the One Tails from Gaara. You see, this is the first time we see the Akatsuki as a whole in chapter 238. Itachi, Kisame, and Zetsu had all made an appearance prior, but from the silhouettes we can recognize some members. The short one's obviously Sasori in his Hiroko shell. This one's possibly Kakuzu. The one with the only one visible eye is probably Deidara, even though the silhouette doesn't look identical, but whatever. He even speaks like Deidara. I imagine this one's Conan because of the hairdo, and the one with the ripple pattern is Tendo Pain. This also could have taken place prior to recruiting Hidan, since neither silhouette resembles him here. The Akatsuki comprised of rogue ninja from all over the 5 great nations, as well as some of the smaller nations as well, except for the Hidden Cloud. The only Cloud Ninja that we know for certain became rogue criminals are Ginkaku and Kinkaku, and they lived well before the age of the Akatsuki. The Raikage prides himself on the fact that the Cloud didn't contribute any members. However, based on the Cloud's history and the fact that they also like to capture Bijou and Jinchuriki, you could say that they kinda competed with the Akatsuki, or that their actions were similar, so the Raikage needs to chill. The Akatsuki is a very well-connected organization, which is how they're able to move freely within the 5 great nations. Pain is the leader of the Rain Village, Obito was also the leader of the Mist for quite a bit, and his abilities allow him to move freely just about anywhere. Itachi can sneak into the leaf whenever, since the 3rd Hokage gave him the barrier key. Sasori's very well connected in the sand, and has multiple sleeper agents deployed. Kakuzu's also well connected in the black market. He knows all sorts of bounty collectors, and he actually has a team of accountants and bookies that do his financial bidding. The Akatsuki was intended to be a group of monsters at first. That's why Zetsu's as freaky looking as he is. You can see this monster-like design present in members such as Kisame and Kakuzu, but even Deidara, Sasori, and Hidan have those qualities. Deidara with the mouths on his palms, Sasori being a human puppet, and Hidan's Shinigami pattern that activates once he starts his ritual. Pain could also be considered of a freakish design with all the piercings and the Renegon itself looking pretty abnormal. Okay, now we get to Depths Level 1, where the information and the mysteries are gonna get a bit more obscure. Let's start with the Akatsuki rings. One thing that was never explicitly stated anywhere was the purpose behind them or their practical use. The rings seemed to be important at first, with how Deidara was more interested in recovering it over his arm, and how Tobi and Zetsu personally went looking for Sasori's ring. Also, Orochimaru's ring is never replaced after he took it with him, meaning that they're not replicable. So that means that they hold some value. So why is that? Well, there's 2 main theories to answer that question. Theory 1 is that the rings helped in sealing the Bijou, since we see the ring emblems light up on each finger a member standing on during the sealing of the tailed beasts. But the fingers don't light up during the next sealing. Theory 2 is that the rings are used for the Akatsuki's remote hologram meetings, and that's what I've always went with. The Akatsuki rings themselves were unfortunately an abandoned concept, so we can't know for sure what their true purpose was. The Akatsuki was written differently from most anime villain groups, because they're meant to be anti-heroes. Kishimoto said in an interview before, the Akatsuki is an anti-hero group pitted against the main characters in Naruto, but I didn't want to make them just villains, because I thought there should be different reasons as to why they became outlaws against society. So they weren't written to be just flat out bad guys, but rather morally gray characters that have deeper motivations behind their actions. That makes it a lot easier for us, the viewer, to relate to and even root for the Akatsuki sometimes. The purpose behind the Akatsuki Hiden novel was to give us a story narrative from their perspective to make us see them as more human. And even at the end of the novel, we can read this sentence: the Akatsuki also had family, the Akatsuki also had loved ones, they too were shinobi and were human. Being the main villain group, the Akatsukis made an appearance in many of the additional Naruto materials, and each rendition is slightly different. The Akatsuki are featured in the Road to Ninja movie, where in the Tsukuyomi world, they're a mercenary group that works alongside the Leaf Village, and it seems like Itachi's the one leading the organization. The Akatsukis also made an appearance in Tsunade's Infinite Tsukuyomi filler dream. Since that world is an alternative world where Minato never dies, that version of the Akatsuki is missing many members like Itachi, Kisame, and Obito, and is led by Sasori. The Akatsuki also have a hidden novel dedicated to them that I've already mentioned like 100 times before on this channel, and they also appear as chibi versions of themselves in the Rock Lee Ninja Pals spin-off, as well as Chibi Sasuke's Sharingan Legend manga. There's also a creation of the Akatsuki story in the Storm games, which expands the Akatsuki's lore and shows us the recruitment of Kakuzu, Sasori, and also Orochimaru. And then there's Shin that tried to revive the Akatsuki and Boruto, but that Akatsuki was a sham. The order in which the Jinchuriki were captured is never explicitly stated in canon material, but if we were to take the filler combined with some manga statements, we can come up with a rough order. Deidara makes a remark that 2 Jinchuriki had been captured during the time skip before Gaara. The anime gives us a scene implying that Hidan and Kakuzu captured the 7 Tails around the new Chunin exams filler arc. The filler also gives us the capture of the 6 Tails, which occurs after all the Bijou have been sealed except for the 8 and 9 Tails, obviously. Remember that the anime is the second best source and is usually considered canon unless it directly contradicts the manga. So that would make the order: first, both the 5 and 7 Tails in an unspecified order, then the 1 Tail, the 2 Tails, the 3 Tails without its Jinchuriki host, the 4 Tails, the 6 Tails, and you know, the attempted 8 and 9 Tails capture. Another order that's never explicitly stated is the order in which the Akatsuki members joined the organization. Obviously, the first members to join were the founders, Pain, Conan, Tobi, Zetsu. Both the Itachi filler arc and the creation of the Akatsuki story support the idea that Sasori and Kakuzu were some of the earlier members. The next 2 members to join would have been Itachi and Kisame, and possibly Orochimaru too. There's this one filler scene where Itachi joins the organization and Kisame's already a member, but the canon does imply that Kisame was paired up with Itachi, who had already joined. And then afterwards, Itachi would go on to recruit Deidara into the group, and then Hidan was stated to be the second newest member after Tobi, making him the most recent one. So the order in which the members joined is Pain, Conan, Tobi, and Zetsu in no specified order. Then Sasori and Kakuzu, also not in a specified order. Orochimaru, Itachi, Kisame, Deidara, and Hidan. And now we're deep enough to get to level 2. This one's interesting. When Kabuto pulled up on Obito and blackmailed him into an alliance, he had 5 members of the Akatsuki in his collection. Everyone that had died so far, except for Hidan. And even when Kakuzu confronts Team 10, he remarks that the fact that Hidan wasn't revived could mean that he's still alive as a severed head to this day. We don't get a reason as to why Hidan wasn't revived. Maybe because Shikamaru buried him in the heavily guarded Nara forest, Kabuto wasn't able to get some of his DNA. But in the power filler arc, we get to see a reanimated Hidan as part of Kabuto's army. I will say that Edo Hidan wasn't a normal Edo Tensei, and was created as a clone manifested from thousands of tiny snakes, and combined with a genetic sample of the intended shinobi. So I guess he did manage to get some of Hidan's DNA somehow. One thing you should know about the Akatsuki is that they're the leading organization when it comes to espionage. So much so that my top 10 ninja best at espionage list had more than half of its entries be Akatsuki members. Sasori has spies working for him and has a jutsu that seals the spy's memory to make their infiltration mission more efficient. Itachi, Conan, and Obito all have unique jutsu that make them efficient spies. However though, the member whose main focus was espionage is Zetsu. The Mayflower trap, which gives him the ability to travel through the ground and through solid surfaces, makes him perfect for the job. That, along with other abilities like Black Zetsu's ability to record all that it witnesses, and White Zetsu's ability to replicate anyone's chakra signal and create an indistinguishable clone, working together, they would linger in the background and record every important battle in shinobi history. Did you know that Kakuzu had the bad habit of killing his partner, meaning that he's killed Akatsuki members before and even added their hearts to his collection? It's never explicitly stated how many partners he's killed, but it's implied to be more than one. Possibly 4, one for each heart. We do get to see one of these incidents in the Itachi novel anime adaptation, where the partner is engaging the enemy in close quarters, and Kakuzu decides to murk the both of them with a fire style attack.
Admit it, you ignored your partner, didn't you? So what? You wanted to kill him, didn't you? What's your point?
Yeah, it was that bad. Eventually, the Akatsuki leader took note of that and paired Kakuzu up with an immortal that he couldn't technically kill. Did you know that on top of being the Akatsuki's spy, Zetsu was also responsible for cleaning up the corpses left behind by the Akatsuki? The corpse of a shinobi holds a lot of secrets of the shinobi's village or affiliated organization, which is why Zetsu was sent to clean up the corpses left by Akatsuki members or affiliates, and he usually cleaned up by devouring the body. I've already talked about this pretty extensively in my Akatsuki retcon video, but the main goal of the Akatsuki, before we hear about the Eye of the Moon plan, was to corner the war market. The Akatsuki will accept all sorts of missions, regardless of which village is making the request or how depraved the mission may be, until everyone starts relying on the Akatsuki to wage their wars. And then they would become a monopoly controlling all wars, which would lead to the Akatsuki's main goal, world domination. This is also a topic that I've tackled in greater detail before, and it concerns Tobi in his earlier days in the Akatsuki when he was trolling everyone. A lot of people seem to think that it wasn't Obito at all, but that it was Swirly Zetsu filling in the part. Now, while I do understand where that claim comes from, since Tobi does seem to get caught up in troubling scenarios that Obito should be able to get out of, like the capture of the Three Tails, and he also doesn't break character when speaking to Zetsu alone, which has led a lot of people to think that Obito's just an Emmy-worthy method actor, which honestly might just be the case. We've seen Tobi use Kamui when he was behaving like a buffoon, and we even see him break character and talk in his normal voice twice.
A fearsome jutsu indeed.
We also know that Obito's great at playing characters, with how he was able to convince everyone that he was Madara. Now, I guess Obito could technically phase through the attacks and have Guru attached to him, but there'd be no point of having him. So I think it was just Obito playing a character. Just like Orochimaru, the Akatsuki had different hideouts scattered all over the shinobi world. The first one we see is on the outskirts of the Land of Wind, where Deidara and Sasori took the Kazekage to extract the One Tails. It's unclear where the sealing of the Two Tails or the Four Tails took place, since the hideout was destroyed after Sasori's battle against Sakura and his grandma. In the Itachi novel anime adaptation, we see that the Akatsuki has a similar looking hideout near the Land of Fire, and since Tobi controlled the Mizukage and Pain controlled the Rain, I wouldn't be surprised if the Akatsuki had hideouts in both the Hidden Mist and the Hidden Rain. During the Itachi Pursuit arc, Jugo confirmed that there were multiple Akatsuki hideouts emanating with powerful unpleasant chakra, and Sasuke meets Itachi in one of those, but the location itself isn't explicitly stated anywhere. Though the Akatsuki's main hideout, the one where Obito had his Sharingan lab, as well as the Ghetto Mazo, is the Mountains Graveyard, which contains skeletal structures and is located in the north of the Iron Country. After Orochimaru left the Akatsuki, after failing to get Itachi's body, he eventually planned to destroy the organization. One day, we know that he was planning an ambush for Sasori, and once he learns that the Leaf Ninja killed him, he decides to spare them in the hopes that they'd kill more Akatsuki members. That's part of why Orochimaru got Sasuke to spare Team Kakashi. I don't think he was expecting Konoha to finish the entire group, but he was gonna take all the help he could get. Orochimaru did have greater plans for the Akatsuki, and I believe that those plans were tied to Sasuke. After Orochimaru gets Sasuke as the perfect vessel, he was going to modify his body to the best of his ability, possibly implanting Hashirama cells, and even attempting to awaken the Rinnegan, as it's implied that Orochimaru knew about the Sharingan's evolution. Once he does that, he was gonna try to destroy the Akatsuki. If you've made it this far, then get ready for even more obscure facts about the Akatsuki, starting with this one. As we get to learn later, the Akatsuki's true goal behind capturing the tailed beasts was for the Eye of the Moon plan. However, it didn't seem like the majority of the group even knew about the Ten Tails, let alone the Infinite Tsukuyomi. So which members knew about Project Tsukinome? Well, obviously Tobi and Zetsu knew about it, since it was their plan. Kisame also knew about it, since Obito told him about this world free of lies, the Tsukuyomi world. Also, according to the anime, when Tobi confronts Conan in the Hidden Rain, he says that he informed both Pain and Conan about Project Tsukinome.
You both approved of my Project Tsukinome after all.
Though he doesn't make that statement in the manga. As for the rest of the members, there's nothing to indicate that they knew about the Eye of the Moon plan. Maybe Itachi knew about it through reading the Uchiha Stone tablet, but there's nothing to confirm that.
Did you know that Kisame is arguably the best Akatsuki member? Now what do I mean by that? Well, the most important skill that an Akatsuki could possess is capturing Jinchuriki, and Kisame is built for that job. That's because the way his ability works is by consuming their chakra with the Samehara and rechannel it as his own stamina. The stronger his opponent, the stronger he is. He also died to protect their secrets, so there's that.
Did you know that it's not only Sasori that held a grudge against Orochimaru, but his partner Deidara as well? Considering Orochimaru was his former partner, Sasori's grudge makes sense. But why did Deidara harbor a similar grudge? Well, there's two reasons for that. In the Itachi anime filler, Deidara tries to kill the snake by blowing up his hideout and promised to finish the job if Orochimaru somehow survived. Deidara's reason in the Akatsuki Hiden novel is different though. Deidara was forced into the Akatsuki to fill in the vacancy left by Orochimaru. Deidara did not want to join the Akatsuki in the first place, but Itachi tricked him into joining, and he blamed Orochimaru for leaving that gap in the first place. The Akatsuki is made up of professionals, so it's no surprise that some members would have counters to at least basic genjutsu. Deidara, for example, trained his left eye to counter genjutsu, and Kakuzu could possibly get one of his hearts to break him out, since they operate independent of him. Itachi and Tobi are both Uchiha, enough said. However, one member that is believed to be immune to genjutsu in general is Sasori. Since Sasori is a human puppet, he doesn't possess the same sensing ability as the average human. He doesn't even use all 5 senses, like the sense of taste or smell, since he doesn't eat, drink, or even breathe. He also doesn't have a brain or any organs, it's just his puppet core, so he might be difficult to put under a genjutsu considering how foreign his chakra network would be. He does see and hear, so it's hard to say he's 100% immune to auditory and visual genjutsu, but for example, in Sasuke Retsuden, Sasuke couldn't put Zensuru under genjutsu because he had a glass eye, and Sasori does not have human eyes, so that argument could be made for him. Also, Zetsu was also not affected by the Infinite Tsukuyomi, but that could just be because he's Kage as well. Another interesting thing about Sasori is he was similar to his old partner Orochimaru. They both had a lust for knowledge, and they both were interested in collecting famous shinobi as specimen. Sasori's human puppets were a similar concept to Orochimaru's Edo Tensei. Of course, Orochimaru's reanimated ninja had the edge, considering that the reanimated shinobi could regenerate from damage, and the souls wouldn't get released even after the caster's death. Sasori himself acknowledged the reanimation jutsu as superior, and he asked Kabuto to collect intel on the jutsu for him, unaware that Orochimaru had broken his control on Kabuto. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Sasori, and he ended up being revived as an Edo Tensei instead. Every member of the Akatsuki is considered to be one of the most wanted criminals in shinobi history. Itachi's wanted for massacring the Uchiha clan, Kisame's wanted for the murder of a feudal lord, and Deidara's wanted for terrorist bombing. We don't know exactly what Sasori's wanted for, but we do know that he, like Orochimaru, started kidnapping shinobi to turn them into his human puppets. Kakuzu was imprisoned for his failure to assassinate the first Hokage, and once he broke out of jail, he stole the village's secrets alongside the village elders' hearts. So that's probably why he's wanted. As for Hidan, in the anime filler, the Akatsuki is dispatched to deal with a homicidal maniac on the loose. The other 4 members aren't really wanted because they operate in secrecy, but we all know that they're even more dangerous than the previous members. And now we've reached the final layer, level 4. We're at the depths of the iceberg. Did you know that the Akatsuki uniform originally had a different design in the manga? Yeah, the original Akatsuki cloak only had 1 sleeve, as you can see. This is actually the reason behind Itachi's popular left hand hanging from the cloak pose, since there isn't a left sleeve for his arm. Itachi, Kisame all share this design in part 1 of the manga. In the anime though, they have 2 sleeves. And the manga changes the cloak design to have 2 sleeves after the time skip when we first see Deidara and Sasori. Itachi and Obito had a secret rivalry and were kinda playing a game of chess during Itachi's tenure in the Akatsuki. Itachi's true alignment was to Konoha, and Obito knew that. That's why he teamed him up with Kisame, the most loyal member, in order to keep an eye on Itachi. Obito also tested Itachi by pitting him up against the Mizukage. In the anime filler, Itachi was sent on a mission with Juzo, and they were confronted by the Mizukage. If we were to look at the anime, we see Obito first controlled Yagura when he was pretty young. So by the anime's timeline, the Mizukage should have been under Obito's control when he faced Itachi and Juzo. The biggest game they played though was who gets to control Sasuke. Itachi had 2 contingency plans for if Sasuke was approached by Tobi. The first being the Amaterasu set to activate by Obito's Sharingan, the second being Chisui's crow implanted inside Naruto and set to activate by Itachi's Sharingan, since he believed Sasuke would implant his eyes before attacking the village. You might not know this, but many of the Akatsuki members were inspired off of mythical figures in Japanese culture. Kakuzu's design, for example, was inspired off of an urban legend named the Kuchisake Onna, or the slit-mouthed woman, as they both have a similar deformed mouth that they cover with a mask. Kisame is also inspired off of a mythical creature called the Samebito, which is what you'd expect it to be. A shark man that appears in the Gratitude of the Samebito story by Yakima Koizumi. Deidara, on the other hand, wasn't inspired off of some monster, but off of an artist named Taro Okamoto. Deidara's clay art style and the mouths on his palms, even his catchphrase, "Art is an explosion," was a catchphrase coined by Taro. One mystery that's been on every Akatsuki fan's mind is who captured Han, the Five Tails. Now we don't have an official answer for that, so all we can do is speculate. We know that Han was most likely captured before the start of Shippuden. Let's try the process of elimination. We know it was neither Deidara nor Sasori, since Deidara's target was the One Tails, and Sasori died before getting to his, which we could assume is the Three Tails. Hidan had the Two Tails, Kakuzu had the Seven Tails, Itachi had the 9 tails as his target, and Kisame had the 4 tails. We also know that according to the anime filler, Pain captured the 6 tails. So that leaves us with Toby, Konan, Zetsu, and Orochimaru. It's unlikely that Zetsu would have been sent, since capturing Jinchuriki isn't really his job. It could have been Orochimaru, but also, it's just a maybe. It also could have been Konan, which is what most people believe. I've seen some false claims that the Akatsuki Hidden novel confirmed that Konan captured Han, but what actually happened in the novel was that Konan was sent to find an informant who used to know the Jinchuriki of the Four Tails, and even then he didn't know Roshi's current whereabouts. So yeah, nothing confirms that Konan captured Han, but by process of elimination, the 5 Tails was likely her target. It's possible that Obito and Tendo Pain accompanied her and maybe even assisted, since the 3 of them were seen confronting the Mizukage together. We don't really know much about Nagato's past before becoming orphaned. His father Issei was a doctor, and his mother Fuso was a nurse. During the Second Ninja War, they were providing humanitarian aid in a war zone until one night when their battle-damaged home was ransacked by Konoha ninja, and the both of them were killed, leaving Nagato, their son, an orphan. It's believed that Nagato's mother Fuso was from the Uzumaki clan, while his father could have been of Senju lineage, though that part I'm a bit iffy on. Did you know that in the Akatsuki Hidden novel, Zetsu tried to have Konan killed? Konan's rebellious attitude against Obito's leadership made Zetsu wary of her. He told Obito that she'd eventually betray the Akatsuki and that he'd need to make an example out of her. And Zetsu was on the money because Konan was starting to get suspicious of Toby and Zetsu, and she even started questioning Nagato a bit, considering how far the Akatsuki had fallen from Yahiko's image. Obito, though, refused to kill Konan, as he believed it'd be a lot easier to manipulate Nagato with Konan around. Now, I want to shout out the boy Delix for inspiring this point. Bro left a long ass comment on my Why Pain Was Right video, and I recommend reading it, it's pretty good. But yeah, Nagato may have not been as loyal to Obito as you think. Whenever we hear Pain discuss the Akatsuki's plans, he never brings up the Eye of the Moon plan, not even when he's talking to Naruto. And also, he never mentions Obito, like he didn't exist or something. Now, Nagato may have been talking about the 10 Tails, but nothing about a dream world. So that means that Nagato knew about Obito's plans with the Bijou and still had his own. While Nagato and Obito teamed up because their plans aligned to an extent, you can also see it as Obito cornering a crippled Nagato and forcing him to do whatever he wants. Nagato was in a vulnerable position. Obito can literally end him at any moment if he chooses. So Nagato didn't have much of a choice but to cooperate with Obito. Konan couldn't save him, and therefore this theory developed that Pain was in on Konan's plan to eradicate Toby, that all the 800 billion paper bombs that Konan was gonna use against Toby were produced in the Hidden Rain, and that Pain had his own plans for the Bijou once Obito was dealt with. And that's it. Phew. I really went on for a while there, didn't I? Please be sure to drop a like as a token of appreciation. And yeah, that's it. Bye!